Bob, or man on a boat. In a boat on a river lived a man, Bob. Bob fished. It's what Bob did all of the time. Fish and fish. Sometimes Bob ate the fish, but most of the time what Bob did with the fish was Bob sold the fish. It's how Bob lived. A boat, a river, fish, a man, Bob. Look at Bob's hands. His knuckles are rivers. The skin on Bob's hands, fish scale covered, they look like they've been dipped in stars. When Bob fishes with his hands. Bob is a hand liner. A hand liner is a fishing man who fishes with his fishing line running through his hands. Bob does not fish with a fishing pole to help him fish his fish in with. At night is when Bob likes to fish best. The river at night is the river that Bob likes most. The river at night is his, Bob's. By day, Bob sleeps. The river, when the sun is on the river, is the river that Bob does not like to fish. When the sun is on the river gets too muddy with boats that do not belong to Bob. Bob is a man who lives on his boat. Bob does not like to step foot off of his boat. Bob is his boat. Bob's boat is his home. Bob's boat, like most boats, it has a name, Bob. The word Bob is nowhere to be found painted onto the back of Bob's boat. But when you see Bob's boat out on the river, what you would say is, even if you do not see Bob there on it, you would say, look, there's Bob. There he is now. Say hello to Bob. Raise up your right hand. Bob won't wave back. Bob can't hear you. It's not that Bob is deaf. It's just that Bob chooses not to hear. There are people in this town who say about Bob that Bob only talks to fish, that Bob only listens to fish. I am not one of those people. Bob does not talk to fish. That is, Bob does not just talk to fish. Bob sings to fish. Listen, there is, I know, a difference. I know about this difference because I am Bob's son. I am a Bob too. Bob does not know that I am his. I am his even though Bob does not know this. I too am a Bob who likes to fish. By telling you about Bob, I am more of a father to Bob than Bob is a father to me. But unlike Bob, I do not live to fish. There is in this a difference. I have a life outside the river. I have a wife that I love. I have a little boy whose name is not Bob. My boy's name, it is Robert. We call him Bobby. But Bobby's friends, they all call him Bob. You won't ever hear Bob call out the way some fisher people call out, fish on. When Bob fishes, if his lips are moving at all, Bob is whispering to the fish. What does a man whisper when he whispers to fish? What does a man like Bob whisper when he is whispering to fish? What does Bob whisper when he moves his lips to whisper to the river's fish? Only Bob and only the fish know the answer to this. Some people who fish kiss the fish that they fish up out of the river. Some people who fish say to the fish that they fish, "Come to Papa." Bob is not one of these people. Bob is Bob. Bob takes the fish that he fishes up out of the river and he fishes them up into his boat. Bob takes the fish that he fishes up out of the river and Bob sells the fish, but not so that he can eat. Bob takes the fish that he fishes up out of the river and Bob sells the fish that he fishes up out of the river so that Bob can keep on fishing, so that Bob can continue to live. Fish on. Sometimes at night, when the fish are slow to bite, Bob looks up from the river and looks up into the sky for stars. Some nights, Bob sees how many stars in the sky he can count. One night, Bob counted up to 222. That was a bad night for fishing. That was a good night for counting stars. Most nights, the fish start biting before Bob can count up to 10. On a good night of fishing, on a bad night for counting stars, Bob can fill up his boat with more fish than there are stars up in the sky. Nights like this, Bob's boat is no longer just a boat. It is a constellation of fish.